people get upset when we take the Lord's name in vain, Charles, but it's okay. We're here on, I mean, listen, the guy ran by on the High Line. He did. There's nothing but lunatics around in New York City, but Charles, it's just basically Overfield.
It is, it's over. I mean, somebody has made a decision to pull the flush lever.
Did you see this movie, Cloverfield?
No.
It's about a monster that destroys New York City. So for today, we've depicted Joe Biden. You see him on the plunger there?
I did.
With
the art department outdid itself once again, Jason.
The feckless Eric Adams, Leticia James.
Are you going to give the art department a 40% raise?
Following the
lead of Joe Biden?
United Auto Workers. Well, we're going to talk about that. We have so much to discuss today, Charles, and we're going to be on an epic journey here, starting on the High Line. But I want to talk about, Joe and his communist effort to shut down corporations. What do we got up there?
It's a helicopter hovering right next to the
edge.
The edge there. Why would it hover there?
Let's see if we can get a better shot of that.
Now it's moving.
Oh yeah, Charles, I'm doing something today that should improve. Look at that, the detail of really zoomed in shots. Whoops. Yeah, there it is.
Is it a police helicopter?
It is difficult to say. I think it would be.
Yeah, well, it's not as curious now. I hope people are safe up there.
What is it? Is there a problem up there on the edge? We don't really know.
I think people have jumped off that edge.
I don't think a helicopter could help you with that.
No.
But we're going to be on an epic journey through New York City today, and we're going to be discussing a lot of things that require us to speak in the First Amendment Forum. People can join us there by subscribing to Crowdsource the Truth on odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth, crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com, and subscribestar.com and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. Where should we start, Charles? I mean, we've named the show today after basically, you and I had a conversation, and I know that people are going to be, it's going to snap their heads back to hear your explanation of how damaging this ridiculously illegal ruling from Judge Engoron. What's the guy's name? Engoron, I think.
Engoron.
Yeah.
I mean, what I think this is another example of, and again, I keep talking about how I like timelines. Every time there's damaging information coming out or about to come out around Joe Biden, there's a stunt against Trump. Every single time, from the MarALago raid forward. And here, we learned today in a leak that went to ABC, and that's obviously something that was intentionally done, that the special counsel investigating the Bidens has a lot more information and has interviewed 100 witnesses.
Wow.
Yeah, supposedly in connection with Joe's mishandling classified information dating back to 2010.
I'm surprised they're still alive.
Well, so here's the thing. In 2010, the person who was in charge in the Justice Department of investigating government corruption was none other than the special counsel targeting Trump. Right? So how come he didn't see any of this back when he had responsibility for doing this? I mean, it was his real job to simply make sure that nobody saw the corruption.
Right.
And since he knows that Trump and his team are very close, I think, particularly if they win, to finally exposing all this corruption, does this now make a lot more sense? So then on the one hand, you have the leak to ABC, big enough that they can write stories. Of course, it takes time, even great writers, to just get the story in there. So the story's released last night, this morning, or whenever, it's blowing up the airwaves. Separately, Hillary is down at the State Department talking smack, about her great service.
Portrait. Is that normal to have a portrait of the Secretary of State?
It should stop, but it is normal. And I mean, her tenure as Secretary of State
was disastrous.
I know. It's like one disaster after the next. Look, and you go back to those WikiLeaks Podesta emails. There's multiple email exchanges where it's like, Madam Secretary, the cabinet meeting is starting at whatever time, and her response is, "Am I supposed to be there?"
Well, but also now those John Podesta emails have been buried deeper than the Thor Heyerdahl Easter Egg Island heads.
Exactly. And so those need to come forward. So we have, the point is that in Hillary Clinton's case, every aspect of her career has been a dirty trick, going back to the very beginning. You know, you think back, this whole issue of disrespecting an African American person, right? Now, I'm
like
not
LL
actually.
Cool J?
Well, here's Hillary when she's a brat at Wellesley. She enters Wellesley a Republican, leaves Wellesley a radical, somehow gets into Yale Law School. And I'd love to see her application and her test scores and her transcript. But anyway, the students are all excited about this nutcase, and they want her to address the commencement, and it wasn't normal to do that, so she had to negotiate, and they negotiated a deal where her speech was reviewed in advance, and she theatrically gets up, tears the speech, and proceeds to shred the African American senator from Massachusetts, a Republican, who's at the podium there collecting an honorary degree. I mean, for that alone, I would have chucked her out of the school.
You don't want to give her the Justin Trudeau Prize for best performance in public?
Yeah, exactly. That was pathetic as well. But so she goes from there to Yale Law School, where it takes her 4 years to get through it, which I did confirm with a former equivalent of a trustee of Yale Law School, who's long-serving and very smart man who sadly passed away a number of years ago. I confirmed that was unusual. And while she's at Yale Law School, she works for takes the side of the Black Panthers.
Yeah.
You know, these are people who killed folks, and she thinks it's a good idea to get on their side. She then works allegedly for the Watergate Committee.
Stealing documents.
And steals not just a document.
Destroying it.
She steals a precedent. The only copy of, some precedent that would have been very important and should have been given to the other side, and the person in charge of that effort bounces her off the job. This is somebody who she had to surrender her law licenses several times.
They should be more aggressive, like with taking away lawyers' licenses for transgressions.
They should make examples of it.
It should be easy to lose your law license to the extent that every single lawyer should be constantly afraid of that happening.
Right. And and we'll talk about this in more depth in the First Amendment forum, but on the subject of licenses, here's this judge, and we've got the opinion right here. I read it on my phone, so I haven't really had a chance to go over it in depth, but this opinion is laughable on the face of it, in my opinion. Not as a lawyer, but just as somebody who's seen a lot of judgments and seen a lot of legal papers. It's total rubbish.
But let me agree and slightly modify what you're saying. I would say it's not laughable. It is totally based on fallacies,
right,
non-legal opinions, and moronic stuff. But it should be taken very seriously because, in my view, this is just another example of exactly what I've been subjected to for the past 6.5 years.
Right.
And I think it basically helps people understand why there has been this widely reported uptick in support from the black community for Donald Trump, because I think there are a lot of people in the United States of America who realize that this is, in fact, the way the so-called justice system works. We've just like when that video of the cops beating King, what was his name?
Rodney King?
Rodney King. The video of the cops beating Rodney King, that was no surprise to any black person living in South Central Los Angeles. That's been going on for a long time. But it was the first time that white Americans got a view into that world, and I think something similar is happening now. Donald Trump is just the highest profile guy that this has ever happened to, and he's in the news every day, so we're hearing about it.
Right, we'll go into some more depth in the First Amendment forum, but I mean, the idea is
wearing a Camp David jacket.
That any one judge in this country could administer a corporate death penalty.
Right, without a jury.
With no jury, and just dismiss the arguments out of hand made by one side.
Well, how about he's a real estate appraiser now, just assigning value to these things?
Right, and to be so wrong. I mean, just to take, for example, I have not tried to value MarALago, but we were talking off air that I have friends who have properties down there, and this MarALago property is substantial, very big, unusual, and set up in a very interesting structure. To say that it's only worth, for this judge to say it's only worth 17 million.
Here, right here, Charles.
What?
$80 for this.
For what?
This building, it's a piece of shit. I'll give you $80.
Okay, can I?
It's overvalued at 80.
You know, but seriously, the MarALago property is runs from the Atlantic Ocean to the Intercoastal. It's 20 acres. It's
Forbes said it was worth 160 million in 2018. I have a friend who sold his house in Florida during the whole craziness. He paid $500,000, sold it for over $1 million.
Right.
So if Forbes said it was worth 160 5 years ago, what does this judge know about
Nothing.
real estate that Forbes doesn't?
Right. And so it's this is all designed, I think, and it was coordinated. I'd love to see a real investigation of emails.
No, there's no emails.
Oh, well, I'm sure there are, because these people are arrogant and stupid. I'm sure there are.
It's going to be using something that it's designed to not be accessible through this process, like a clandestine virtual private network on Twitter that can be deleted and very difficult to find.
Yeah, except what I'm telling you is in the same way that the Clintons assumed that Abedin and Anthony Weiner wouldn't hold on to their laptop, which has the word insurance policy in a file. In that same way, this conspiracy involves many people, and I will bet you that at least one of those people, a young person most likely, maybe Hillary, but a young person, and Hillary's definitely not young, held on, wanted to memorialize what was going on and thought this was really neat that we could take down, we could make sure that a leading candidate who's in the polls 10 points ahead of Biden, we could just take that person out of the game because we are social justice warriors working for globalism and Klaus Schwab.
Why didn't they? Yeah, I mean, just invite all the Nazis to Canada.
I think they more or less did.
Yeah, they did. I was finding out about some pretty interesting things yesterday, Charles. I mean, we've spoken a lot about Operation Paperclip, but there's something far less well known called Operation Matchbox, which was the British government placing Nazis in Australia, Canada, probably New Zealand as well.
Wouldn't doubt it.
And I mean, it's just, the fact that they declassify Operation Paperclip, I think it would be prudent to at least consider the likelihood that anytime they're declassifying something, it should be
it's only part of the truth.
Analyzed as a limited hangout. Why would they be telling us this? It's to cover up something far worse, like, we're going to tell you that we integrated a couple dozen Nazis. The fact is, the United States and the United Kingdom were the Nazis. We created the Nazis. We created Zionism. We created Israel to stoke this fight. And we've been, poking that bear for the past 70 years.
Yeah, could be. So here we are. We've been through this part of New York many, many times, from the far west side, which is really picking up, I think. Based on, I remember the first time we came out here, it was like a ghost town. But
This park is definitely finished and nice, but the other thing that we should mention, Charles, is that we're heading up here to essentially like the automotive neighborhood of New York to talk. I mean, we might as well talk a little bit. We've got so much to discuss, obviously, but we could start talking about Joe Biden and his trip to the United Auto Workers Union.
Well, Trump is supposedly going to be out there today, and I bet you the reaction is going to be very different. I don't think Donald Trump is going to take a government fleet of
20, 30
CO2
cars.
Global warming instruments.
Were they electric?
I doubt it.
I doubt it too.
And nearly fall down the gangplank, whatever you call that, the jet bridge or whatever it's called.
They should get him one of those chairs that goes up automatically.
But Trump's not going to do that, and he's certainly not going to go on the picket line for 12 minutes mumbling and then rush off to a big dollar fundraiser, flying Air Force One at government expense out to California. I mean, it's just whoever is in charge of, let's go on this side.
Yeah.
Who's ever in charge of the Biden expeditions is trying to make him look stupid at this point. I mean, they certainly don't have his best interests at heart. I mean, I'm no political expert, but I would never let the president, first of all, putting him on a picket line
Yeah.
involving an industry that was destroyed under Obama's watch after years of neglect and bad actions under Bush and other President Clinton. And Peter Schiff, who is controversial but I think a smart guy, points out that the auto industry is one example where unions have actually hurt the interests of workers, because by aggressively making it impossible to have any kind of consistency. Thank you.
Consistency with what?
In the way in which you're dealing with labor inside this country, management looked at this and said, I can't rely on regular production of vehicles because these militant unions are going to fuck me up. So let me shift jobs to Mexico and Canada and other countries. So, it's not like...
It's not 100% win.
Well, the politicians are used to situations where they decide the rules of the Senate.
Right.
They can say that Lurch can dress like a fucking moron.
Right.
Confirming that he's a moron.
Wait, Lurch is now Fetterman?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You
Fester,
shifted
Lurch.
from... yeah, he's Fester. Lurch is John Kerry. You're
yeah,
throwing me
that's
off
true.
with the characters.
Well, it's like Trump. It used to be crooked.
Yeah.
Now it's beautiful.
Yeah.
But
That's
anyway,
just beautiful.
Yeah,
Oh,
totally
God.
beautiful. Right. You can't see.
So Fester is
But
dressing...
when we think about the auto industry, first of all, when you think about an industry like this, you got to understand that an industry where nobody can afford, very few people can afford to buy the product for cash,
That's
is
true.
a dangerous industry to be involved with.
Because you have to have a loan to get it.
Right, and when you start when you have a moron as Treasury Secretary, dumber than Biden, who says inflation is transitory, it still doesn't look. Inflation is like gone from 1%
But them changing all that stuff directly affects people's ability to buy the car.
That's my point. So here they've taken actions which have made it very difficult to buy a new car, very expensive, and now what they want to do, just as the industry, is they're blowing up the industry, which is why I think you have that Overfield, one of the reasons. Just as they're doing that, they want to encourage these militant unions to think that because the CEOs took risks and made maybe outsized returns, they too should get a 40% rate. I mean, it's just insane. You're blowing up, he's blowing up the industry they pretended to fix, which got Obama reelected in part in 2012.
But it basically just handed the best experience and techniques of the American auto industry over to China.
Exactly, which is, let's think, who got a couple of wires from Beijing? Hunter Biden addressed to saying that he resided in the Rehoboth Beach House. Is that 11th Avenue or 12th?
Isn't it 11th?
We want 11th.
Well, let's go this way and then we'll...
I just don't know which.
No,
it
you're
is.
right. We'll go this way and correct if we need to, but I don't want to go too far west
Yeah.
and lose the signal.
Yeah. So I wrote numerous pieces. Well, I was on TV many times saying that I think I was the first person to say on television, on CNBC from London, that Obama and Biden were waging a war on capitalism.
Yeah.
And I think that is exactly what they've been doing. They don't want capitalism, they want crapitalism. They want to get money in their bank accounts, diamonds, gold bars, all that kind of stuff, without doing a damn thing. And they're prepared to sell us all out, which is what Biden has done. Obama to date has sort of been insulated from any reasonable criticism, but he claimed when picking that meathead Biden as vice president, moron, that was the most important decision of his presidency. Well, if so, Obama owns all the Biden products. Yeah, that's 10th. I was wrong.
It's okay. We'll go up there and make a left.
So,
Well, wait, because there's more to it. He's the way he's doing it. Everyone's like, oh yeah, he's the union president. He's for workers, but his whole entire purpose is to destroy the industry and eventually leave these people without jobs.
right. Well, he's an instrument. He's an instrument of the enemy. And the enemy is interested in destroying the vibrancy of this country.
And the auto industry is one of the things. I mean, when you think of America, for all its flaws, some of the greatest automobiles ever made in the history of mankind have been designed and conceived in the United States of America. and destroying that industry, in addition to the economic issues it would create, it's like burning up artwork in a museum
Well, they like doing that too.
and destroying classic architecture.
They like doing that too. That was the BLM riots.
Yes.
We'll come back with that again. They're taking statues down and reparations. But what we're going to talk about in some depth, we're going back to the future, horses,
Carriage, yeah.
is the degree to which this judge and this Leticia James, the Attorney General, and the U.S. Attorney here in New York, and the person in the Justice Department, Meritless Fart Man, and others, how they are coordinating an attack to protect Obama and protect Biden and strip Trump and his supporters of the ability to contest the 2024 election. And
Just the ability to participate in the United States of America at all. They're not just contesting the election. They're saying, fuck you, fuck your company.
Right, you have no
fuck
rights.
your family.
To the victor goes the spoils in a Banana Republic style approach. I mean, for Clapper, for example, who's really a bad liar, a moron, and should have his pension canceled, for him to bemoan the fact that if Trump gets elected, he might go to jail.
He might.
Yeah,
He should.
Not might. If you survive after a fair trial, you belong in jail for what he did and what those other people did. 51 people.
Well, and 2 at least are now, last week, put into the Department of Homeland Security Intelligence Experts Group. So here we are. I think this is
Toyota.
Well, that's just parking.
Parking.
But we're approaching
We've got
the
to go to
car
11,
area.
I think.
Yeah.
Assuming we can make the right. Yeah, we can.
So it's pretty bad, Charles.
Yeah.
We've only got 3 minutes until we make it to the First Amendment Forum, but
Good.
people will be able to join us there on Odyssey, Substack, Subscribestar, and Patreon.
And Twitter or not?
Well, Twitter, yeah, thanks for reminding me. I have recently figured out how to actually live stream on Twitter, but I don't have any way yet of doing the sponsor exclusive stuff on Twitter, X Twitter. And I'm still figuring out exactly what I want to do with Twitter.
So is Musk.
Yeah, well, exactly. But I mean, people are going to remember that last November 1st, I was strangled outside of Twitter. And basically, I'm trying to decide if I'm going to exercise my legal rights in regard to that incident. And so making money on Twitter is something there's a lot of considerations surrounding that. But
What is this guy doing with the dumpster here?
here's a smashed window, Charles.
Right.
I guess they're fixing these cars, though.
But what's this guy doing in front of the dumpster?
This is probably his apartment. That's a condo. That guy's the president of the Homeowners Association.
That's the chairman of Biden's Council of Economic Advisors.
So they said that Gavin Newsom is going to show up as his special representative or something. I don't know. Did you hear that? Let's cross the street.
Yeah. Good move.
And now we can look at the
Another
Lincoln
one here,
Tunnel.
though.
Oh, there's a cop not paying attention. What a surprise.
What's
Holy
this-
crap, we've
what
got
are
a
these
whole
drivers doing? Getting toked up?
DHL.
Huh.
Well, anyway,
Palace.
obviously Trump will appeal this decision, but the issue is we've got a judge who has this was prompted by a motion was it a motion for summary judgment or a judgment on the pleadings
I don't know.
by the plaintiff, which is Leticia James, obviously. Oh, look at this. Charles, that's a great piece of advice. If you find yourself getting a summons and the boot, you can just use your spare tire and you're off. No need
Amazing.
to pay that ticket.
That's sustainable. A sustainable approach.
Yeah, but there was a motion for a judgment on the pleadings. I mean, all of this really mirrors what's been done to me in the Emmys case. So this is a pattern that these guys have down. And, you can just look at Andrew Weissman's tweeting activity when things like this happen. These people are all coordinated.
Right. But you're not supposed to be doing this. And, we only have, I guess, a minute or so left, but I'm wearing this special hat, Butter Frauds. And here's Leticia James getting involved, instigating a civil suit that I think has no merit, actually demerits. But
How does she have standing? She wasn't defrauded.
While failing to prosecute the Clinton Foundation criminally, which she should. She has the ability to do that.
And that did defraud the state.
Right, and the city.
And the city by not paying
and
taxes.
Westchester, where they live.
So the whole thing is completely upside down.
Right, and so welcome to Haiti, welcome to the Banana Republic of New York. That's where we live.
Yeah.
Want a banana?
Yeah, maybe on the other side. We're gonna end now, and people can join us in 5 minutes on subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth, patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth, and Odyssey